Today I want to talk to you exclusively about your role as mayor in the statutory council manager form of government. I want to draw your attention to two publications that may assist you in performing your role as mayor. One of them is produced by the Oklahoma Municipal League. You've probably seen this publication before. And in the A section, it outlines the material in which I'm going to talk about today. Likewise, you might also have in your office a copy of Title 11 of the Oklahoma Statutes, and it likewise contains the material for being the mayor in your form of government. So let's talk about those items. First, you're elected from the council, which means you don't run for mayor within your city government. You're elected by your peers who are on the city council. As mayor, you're the presider. You're the chairman at council meetings or special meetings that might be held. But perhaps more importantly, you're the ceremonial head of the city, which means you are the official spokesman of the city when it comes to cutting ribbons or heading up parades or kissing babies or those sorts of things. The administrative duties in your form of government solely rest with the city manager. He or she is the person who's charged with all the administrative duties, hiring, firing, disciplining, budgeting, those sorts of things for your municipality. On the other hand, you are specifically not granted any administrative duties under the statutes for your form of government. So these, I think, are the key bullet points that you want to remember when performing your role as mayor in the council manager form of government.
Under state statutes and our city code, the mayor, Jenks, is presiding over meetings, sign official documents, issue proclamations, resolutions, of course, declare a local state of emergency, those type of things, but not any administrative duties. During our meetings, a mayor participates in the vote. My experience as a mayor typically does not make a motion or second motions. I think just they're busy running a meeting, but nothing precludes them from making a motion or seconding a motion, and does participate in the vote. A mayor and Jenks could not appoint themselves. The council could appoint them as a member of maybe a regional board, but that would be by a council vote. But no one can receive any pay for what they're doing. I believe my most important duty as a mayor is actually just kind of the scale of balance. I think there's a reason the mayor sits in the center and looks to the left and right. And I think all councils, either whether they're 5 or 7, 9, are always odd numbers, so you tend to have the same amount to your left and your right. And part of that is just being able to read the tea leaves, kind of see how the meeting's going, keep it moving in a business-like manner, and just see what the tone and the rhythm of the meeting is, and be sure that you've set a good tone and a good rhythm for that meeting. Our budget process in Jenks involves a committee of council, usually comprised of the mayor and the vice mayor. They pick a third council to participate in that. That is really listening to presentations by separate departments, and usually the department head, talking about their budget, maybe new items they'd like to purchase and present, that have been vetted and winnowed down by staff, and just to get a feel so that in open meetings we're not turning page by page, and then that committee themselves will actually make a motion. It's a public meeting, and they will make a motion and a second and a vote as a do pass, or don't pass, but it's been a do pass for the entire budget to move on to council. So when the budget document itself as a total comes to the council, it's been thoroughly gone through by a committee of themselves, and generally it goes as a very smooth process before the council, not a real timely process because we've set hours in meetings and going through individual departments. We're about 20 square miles in size. We're bounded on all 4 sides by other corporate entities, governmental entities, so we will not get beyond that 20 square miles. So we pretty much know what our future is. And we plan on probably topping out in somewhere around 2035 at 32 to 35,000 people. Of those 20 square miles, 6 of it are development sensitive and probably will not be developed in because of floodways and other issues and some former oil operations that kind of keep one section a little bit of a problem. Our population right now is getting close to 21,000. That's grown quite a bit over the last 10 years. We just hit over 10,000 in the last 10 years, so we've doubled over the last 10 years. We have routinely been the fastest growing city in the state of Oklahoma. We were pleased, I think, in 2007 to be named by Money Magazine as the 43rd best city in the nation, under 50,000 to live in. We think we have an excellent quality of life. We have an excellent school system. Some of the issues we have as a city of just being 21,000, especially within our state, people think of the city of Jenks as the school district of Jenks. The school district of Jenks serves probably about 100,000 population and goes well up into the corporate limits of the city of Tulsa. Most of those folks relate to Jenks quite a bit, and they're coming and going. The main campus is here in the community. All the facilities, sports, and everything are in our city. So it's sometimes we look like the mouse that roared because people think that we're 100,000, but we're only 21,000 as a city. But sometimes living up to that is a little difficult because people think we have a lot more means than we have. We've probably had more of an informal strategic plan up to now. Our goal in 2016, and by the way, the Jenks, city of Jenks has been doing a biennial budget over the last, I think this has been 5 cycles now, where we're doing a 2-year plan. Of course, by law, we can't approve a 2-year budget, but we can approve year 1, and then the document will have year 2, and it's a much shorter process on that second year. And that's been more of our strategic plan, is going through the biennial process. Our goal this year, by having a long-term employee being around and leaving us early next year, one of his goals is to help us develop a 5-year strategic plan to move through the maybe the turn of the next decade. The city of Jenks is in the INCOG, the Indian Nation Council of Governments area, and early on in my elected career, for sure, I wasn't for sure what INCOG would even did, and I've come to find out that it's been a valuable resource for the city, not only through being the clearinghouse for grants and explaining a lot of red tape to us and working us around those issues that we have to apply for the grant, but even in our planning and zoning, for a long time there, the COG supplied planners to cities on part-time basis when we were smaller. Then we would contract with them for a planner, and then as cities like our city grew, we use a full-time planner, but was trained through the COG. But even through our stormwater, the federal stormwater plan is quite a plan to work through, and when you reach that level, it's very good to have the support of someone at the COG that lives it every day, and we really appreciate that. And I know, especially in more of our rural areas in the COG area, they do a lot on the economic development, the rural fire, and I very much value my relationship with the COG, and I know it benefits the city greatly. Our financial stability has been just a very, very frugal and prudent way of budgeting, and never losing keeping our eye on the target. And our target is always come in with fund balances at the end. Always be very conscious of what our resources were going to be, not try to overinflate those. Watch our expenditures like a hawk. And I think criticism over the years of my predecessor, who just recently went in the Municipal Hall of Fame, Randy Ewing, for a lot of the work he did here, was that the money's always tight. No matter what's going on out there in the real world, the money's tight. And that was kind of our code word around here, the money's tight. So we watch the income coming in, we watch the outgoing going out. And we fret as much over a requisition for $150 as we do for $150,000. But you always have to partner. You have to find those partners. We found those partners when we were building the Oklahoma Aquarium. A lot of that came from the private donor side. Some of those came from grants. We partnered with the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation to move their offices out of the Tulsa State Fairgrounds onto the campus of the aquarium because they brought grant money with them. Partnerships all along the way. Just until recently, we just partnered with the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority on a new ramp we needed to get access to property that will soon be a Simon Premium Outlet Mall. And the Turnpike Authority is not just going to come here and redo something just because we think we need it. They want to help bake a cake, and one of the layers of that cake is us bringing money to the table. Well, we went to our voters and got a bond issue passed to tell them what we wanted to do and what it was needed for, and they supported it. And now that is underway right now, and our local match of $7 million is going to turn into about almost $20 million improvement in that area. And it was very key into getting that retail. And obviously when you get something like a Simon Premium Outlet Mall, there will be other retail around it. That partnering can even go on a much smaller scale on economic development. Everyone wants to know a secret to economic development. I think we're all partners. Our elected officials are economic development. Our staff is economic development. When someone comes in the city hall and wants to meet, all department heads come in that are relative to the meeting. The city engineer, the city planner, myself. It's one-stop shopping. One of the big tips that I had, actually a kayak dealer out of Oklahoma City OKC Kayak was wanting to expand, and I got that tip from my dental hygienist cleaning my teeth, telling her husband goes and shops with this guy, and this guy wanted to come to Tulsa. I said, give him my card. A year and a half later, he's now down the street here with Tulsa Kayak, and he's doing greater business than he was doing in Oklahoma City. So you never know where economic development comes from. So my dentist was my partner. So it's just trying to establish partners. Everything. The biggest partnership I think an elected body can have is with their citizens. And they all have to trust each other. And they've trusted these folks to vote them in and to represent them, and they need to represent them well. And they need to represent all of them. And I think sometimes as elected officials we come in thinking that this core group elected us, but once you're elected and you get sworn in, you represent all the citizens in the community, and something I think we need to keep in mind. Our city provides to our citizens services such as, obviously, our roads and streets. I think a lot of folks don't realize that there are services until those roads and streets are not in too good a shape and they want us to come fix them, which is a problem in itself with a smaller community. But we also provide water and sewer. We contract out our waste management to the residential and business district. Our fire and police obviously is a huge service in our city. We do contract out our ambulance service to IMSA. We don't have a third utility as such. The sales tax rate in the city of Jenks is 8.417. It's actually one of the lowest in the metro area. Out of that, of course, we just think about the city side of it. Obviously, the state has their 4%. Of our 3%, 1% of that was approved in the 80s, and it's for capital only. So we actually only have 2 cents out of the dollar to use for operating funds. So it makes things a little tough, especially in a metro area where a lot of the retail is around us and not in us. So that's a little difficult. Our general fund budget this last year was $6.7 million. Also, part of that 8.417 has been a Vision 2025 tax that drops off in 2016. This next year, it will be up for a renewal. The city has benefited quite a bit, community development projects, quality of life projects. The biggest benefit the city, I think, got out of Vision 2025 for sure was it took care of 13 years of the debt payments at the Oklahoma Aquarium. The Oklahoma Aquarium has been a catalyst for us to provide economic development and quality of life and tourism to the city of Jenks, and it brings in about 400,000 people a year to our city. And certainly wouldn't be where we were without the Vision 2025 tax. We're going through a process now about what projects would be extended if this tax were to be extended. That could be coming up in the first quarter of next year. The city of Jenks does pursue grants on all levels of federal, state, private. On the private side, since we own and operate the Oklahoma Aquarium, Certainly we go for private grants and donations there. On the federal side and state side, we've used a lot of transportation grants through the federal process. And along with those comes stipulations and guidelines that sometimes slow the process down quite a bit. So we actually have steered away from some grants lately that it's too long of a process for us. But certainly we've been the recipient of transportation funds. Smaller grants, community development block grants, we've been using to rehab some sidewalks for ADA use downtown. The community, the makeup of the communities make it more difficult to get CDBG grants, but we certainly like to use that. We've used energy grants, public safety grants on fire and police, and certainly like to be the recipient of those, but we do vet those through staff and see if it maybe is the reward worth the work to get to it.